Hey everybody, it's me Stacey here at Scrapbooking Made Simple, scrapbookingmadesimple.com, and welcome to today's Saturday with Stacey YouTube class number 585, counting down to 600 Saturday with Stacey YouTube classes. I got something from YouTube the other day that said, congratulations, anniversary. You've been on YouTube for 14 years. It's your anniversary. It's like, oh wow, that's a really long time. But we started at 0 and we've worked up to 585 classes every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sunny California time, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, and 4 p.m. in the United Kingdom. Now today I've got a wonderful class for you. There's a little something for everybody. We're going to be stamping and we're going to be embossing with embossing powders, and we're going to be using markers and vellum, extra heavyweight vellum that we have been out of stock on for like a year. I want to say a year, maybe even more. So I'm thrilled that we have it back for you. I'm going to take you through from the very, very easy, and we're just going to get a little more technique-y as we go along. But absolutely everything I do here, you're going to be able to do there. There's nothing difficult, there's nothing tricky, or it's just about creating and having a really, really great time. Now, I'm going to continue with my videos all through the holidays. So not only am I here on Saturdays, but I'm on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday, and then back here again on Saturday. So even though you may be off and enjoying your holidays, I'm going to be here enjoying crafting right along with you. And that makes my heart happy. So I have winner chicken dinner to talk about. And last week, you'll remember I wasn't able to announce our winners. We had our power turned off and we had some software issues. We're back up and running, yay. We almost had our power turned off again this Tuesday and Wednesday for prevailing winds. The winds get high and the power company has the right to shut us off. It's a thing, but it didn't happen this week. So I'm excited that I have 4 winner chicken dinners who have won a $100 gift card each. What a great time to be a winner chicken dinner. Now, I don't know how you're going to spend it, but I'm going to give you some really good product today that this $100 could go a really, really long way if you use it wisely. So from YouTube number 583, which was the one I was supposed to announce last week, our first winner is Jody Elaine Weinbrenner. Hello, Jody Elaine Weinbrenner. Congratulations. Yes, you had to wait an extra week to see your name, but does it matter? Better late than never is what I say. Hello, Jody. Jody Elaine, yes? Congratulations. Now, our second winner from that YouTube 583 is Stephanie. Oh, Steffanie. Now, the rest of you who are named Stephanie just went, aw. And a few of you went, oh, that could be me. Steffanie. I have a sister named Stephanie. Don't see her. That's a whole nother story. But my parents spelled her name Stephenne. Stephenne. Stephanie. Parents, they get so creative sometimes. All right, so Stephanie Dalton. Hello, Stephanie Dalton. Congratulations to you. You also had to wait a little extra time to hear your name, but I bet you're happy. I bet you're going wahoo kachoo right now. I'm sure of it. Then we have 2 winners from last week. And these people, so all 4 of these lovely ladies, not only did they like the video, but they posted a comment below. So we're live chatting. If you're watching this during the premiere, there's a live chat over there, or below you, depending on what kind of device you're on. But they left a comment. The live chats don't count, so they left a comment in the comment area. The comment was approved and they liked the video. That's how you become a winner. And that comment can be anything from, hey, it could be run into Starbucks to get a cup of coffee. You want one? Yes, I do. It could be, had a great day today. It could be, I had a really difficult day today. It's anything that is polite, kind, and appropriate. So the two winners from YouTube number 584, Nancy Raising. Hello, Nancy. Congratulations. Wahoo Kachoo for you, girlfriend. $100 winner. $100. Who says no to $100 like ever? And then our last winner is Sharon. Sharon Greco. Hello, Sharon. Sharon, I used your winner to make a funnel. So Sharon Greco, congratulations. You also have won $100 and it is in your online account. Winner, chicken dinner. So I have Stephanie. Wait, let's just do this one more time. I have Stephanie Dalton. I have Jody Elaine Weinbrenner. I'm trying to read, it's backwards and I can't read it. I've got Sharon Greco. And I have got Nancy Raising. Congratulations to all of you. You are a winner. Holy smokes, artichokes. $100 in your online account. How are you going to spend it? Oh, I can tell you how I would spend it. Let me tell you, I already spent it. You saw what I've got over here in my little crafty tubs. So we have to do the winner chicken dinner dance. The dance is what we do here at Scrapbooking Made Simple. It is a tradition. And so all four of you ladies need to sit up proper. You can certainly call your spouse, your fur babies, your kids, your grandkids in and say, oh my gosh, she called my name, I won. And then do the winner chicken dance with them too. So are you ready? You're a winner, chicken dinner. You're a winner, chicken dinner. Wahoo, kachoo. For you. Congratulations to the four of you. I hope you enjoy everything you get with your winnings. I hope you make beautiful things with it and that this is a great way for you to celebrate the end of 2024. This is like, yay! So, now I will be doing everything through the remainder of the year. I'm not stopping. But so regular videos on regular days, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, absolutely. And next week we'll have 2 new winner chicken dinners. But you know what I'm 100% positive on? If you don't like the video and post the comment below, you will never be a winner chicken dinner. And for something that takes like 30 seconds to do, why wouldn't you want that chance? Why wouldn't you want that opportunity to have that extra money? All the things you've always wanted to buy. You could have them. All right, so today is a very special class. I will tell you that I negotiated an amazing deal with Tombow, and I have their ABT Pro alcohol ink markers. They are being sold as a bundle and only as a bundle. I'm going to show you that bundle so you can see it. I also have back, after I can't tell you how long, I have Paper Favorites extra heavyweight vellum. And it's the heaviest weight vellum I have ever had the opportunity to play with. I thought my Simply Defined vellum was heavy. Oh, this is gorgeous. It's so good. But it's limited, just like the alcohol ink markers are limited. I have got Woodware stamps that we have put on sale at 50% off. Not all of the Woodware category, but there is a good chunk of stamps at 50% off. And when they're gone, they're gone. And then I have got pigment-based inks and a clear embossing powder from Jacquard. So we're going to play today, but I think the first thing I'm going to do is show you that bundle from Tombow, because it includes Tombow markers, it includes Tombow blenders, and I've included a stamp so that when you get it, you can start right away. Are we ready to tilt down for today? I'll show you a few samples. I have very, very few samples today. Very few finished samples. It's at the end of the year and it's getting harder to get things done, and people are off on vacation and visiting family and Christmas shopping. So I'll show you a few samples, but I only have a few more after that at the end. But that's okay. They're all beautiful, and you're going to see exactly how amazing this product is. And affordable? Oh my gosh. So let me tilt on down. Let's get started for today. I'll show you a couple samples real quick, and then we're gonna get going. I know everybody's got such a busy day probably today, trying to get everything last minute done. All right. That way, isn't that beautiful? That's beautiful. Either way, that way or that way. Isn't that just absolutely beautiful? This is a Woodware stamp. Look at how cute is this, right? Absolutely darling. So I'm gonna start with the Tombow bundle because it is pretty spectacular. They are ABT markers, which is their alcohol ink markers. These are not water-based. You cannot use them with water. They are an alcohol-based marker. In each set is 5 colors. So you've got 5 yellows, and I have all 8 sets. I have all 8 sets. Now they retail for $19.99 a set. So you've got the yellow for $20, the pinks for $40, the greens $60, the grays $80, the blues $100, right there. Then we have the purples $120, the oranges $140, and the reds $160. So 5 markers per pack. Can I get them all in there? 5 markers per pack. We'll go back just a little bit. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 markers. 20, 40, 60, 81, 20, 40, 60. $160 right there. Now, we have it, I mean, at $80, it would be an amazing value. But it's not $80. And at $50 or $49.99, it would be an amazing value. But it's not that either, not even $39.99. It's $29.99 gets you everything here. But then I was able to negotiate in a few more things for you. You see, Tombow has the black alcohol ink marker and a blender pen. They are not in any of the sets. I was able to negotiate in that everybody will get 2 of each, 2 black ABT markers and 2 blender ABT markers. So these are like $5 each. So now that's another $20. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 20, 40, 60, another, 5, 10, 15, another $20, which would be an amazing. But then I also added in a Woodware stamp so that when you get them, you can start coloring right away, right? Yay, hello, this entire bundle is $29.99. We do not have gajillions of them. No, we don't have gajillions of anything. We're not a gajillion type of store. We're small, but I negotiated such a smoking hot deal that sure, we could easily sell this for $59.99 and you would still think it's an amazing price. But more of you are going to be able to afford $29.99 than $59.99. And while we're not making oodles and oodles and oodles of money and profit, we are giving you the opportunity to get this great value. Yeah. I mean, this is an amazing price for an amazing set. And again, we easily could put it out there for $59.99 and I would make a whole lot more money. Don't get me wrong. But I also know that that would eliminate a very good section of our customers who would say, gosh, I would love to have that for $59.99, but I just can't. $29.99, however, is a lot more affordable for more of you. And anybody who knows somebody who owns a paper crafting store, you know we don't own it because we're going to make $1 million. We own it because we love what we do. It's kind of, I think, like owning a restaurant. People own restaurants because they have a passion for it, not because there's oodles of money in owning a restaurant. Most family-owned restaurants, they work hard and it takes a lot. Well, same in the paper crafting industry. We work hard and it takes a lot, but we also share. We share with our family, and you are my family. So when I'm able to score a great deal, you're able to score a great deal. We don't add, we don't take extra margin, we don't make a killing off of my negotiating skills, which I will say are pretty good. Pretty good. So if you've always wanted alcohol ink markers, or if you already have alcohol ink markers, you're going to be able to add these to your collection. They are dual tipped. So they are a brush tip and a chisel tip. They're not refillable. They are not refillable, but they do last for a long time, and they are Tombow. So you know the quality is amazing. So you're getting, 44 markers and a stamp for $29.99. And I think we all can agree that there's no place else that would ever be able to offer that type of a price. We do it because we love it. We do it because we appreciate you. And we do it because if you keep crafting, we still have a job. So, so this is the bundle for today. I also want to tell you, now we have other product, but I also want to tell you about the Paper Favorites vellum. This vellum is so heavy. It is so thick. I don't know that they put it's 220 GSM. It is insane. There's 5 sheets in each pack. It just landed, and when it's gone, it could be another year. Do you see that? Before we get it back. We have limited quantity. This is heavier than what I had for my vellum. It is beautiful, and we're going to be using it a little bit later on today. I also have, besides the rest of the Woodware stamps, I've got a whole selection of Woodware stamps. The stamp that we're giving you with the set of markers, it has friends. You're like, friends? Yes, this is the stamp that you're going to get for free with the bundle. You're going to get this stamp as part of your $29.99 bundle. But it does have 3 friends. 1, 2, 3. So in total, there are 4 butterflies. 1 you're going to get for free if you buy the bundle. The other 3 we have we put all of it on sale for 50% off. And this is only being sold as an I Want It All bundle. So I want to say that they were $4 each. So for $12, now on sale, you would get all 3 of them for $6 to go with your free butterfly. And then you'll have the whole family. So I'm going to be playing with the butterflies today, and I'm going to be playing with, in fact, I'm not even going to bother to put that on there. I'm going to be playing with color pad and my stencil and stamp tool. So we might as well get started. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is play with white paper. We're just going to start super easy peasy. So I'm going to cut me a piece of white paper and a piece of white paper. And let's see what I've got going on. So let's grab one of the butterflies. This one's really, well, they're all really pretty. And I'm going to stamp him. He is a Woodware stamp. He's clear, so he's going to cling on to either a block, or I'm going to be using my Sizzix stencil and stamp tool. I'm going to keep my liner, the piece that's indexed, the piece that has the design on it. I can put my stamp right back on there, and if I keep the back piece, then I can close it back up. And I'm going to stamp with just black ink. Now, because I'm using alcohol-based markers, I have to use a black ink that will not smear, that will stay put and not move. So StazOn would not be the ink for this, because StazOn is also an alcohol-based ink like these markers, and when you put the two together, it smears. Memento ink will work, but the best, or India ink will work, but also from ColorPad. This is their waterproof ink, and we have the pad and the re-inker. That means when I stamp with it, it won't move when I add water to it. If I want a watercolor, it will just stay in place. So I can put my stamp here. I've got my stamp or my stencil and stamp tool. Let's pick it up. I can ink up my stamp. Now this will at times stain your stamp. It'll make it black. It'll make the lines black, and you're going to have to be okay with that. I personally like it because it makes it easier for me to see my stamp. So I've inked it up, put it down, and again, if you've got a stamp positioner, you're good to go. If you've got the stencil and stamp tool, it's even better. All right, there's my image. Now I'm going to put one over here too, because I've got plenty of room. Press down. It's left a little bit of an image. Can you see a little bit of an image? But because this is a stamp positioner, as long as I don't move my paper, I can go over my stamp again and again and again, because it aligns up perfectly every time. Boop. Down we go. There it is. If I wanted to add more, if I wanted to add more ink to it so it was even darker in color, although that looks pretty darn good, I think I'm okay. Well, let's just say I wanted to add more. I could come back in, add another layer, and as long as I don't move that paper, as long as this stays exactly where I've put it, I'm good to go. Now, to clean my stamp, I use a baby wipe. And again, it may stain my stamp just a little. And you can see that. Let me put a piece of white paper underneath it. You can see that my stamp is stained just a little, and I'm okay with that. Once it's clean, once you have all the extra ink off, even though it's stained a little, I could come back and stamp it with any color I want and it would be fine. The nice thing about it is that it helps me see my image. Because once you pull the stamp, off the liner is what's got the index. The liner is what lets you see what the stamp looks like. But the minute you pull it off that liner, that's what you're left with. And for me, I would rather see this, because then I know what I'm looking at versus here. So I will actually at times use the waterproof ink to ink my stamps up just to stain them, just so it's easier for me to see what I'm working with. Now, I've got them both. They're here, they're done. I can pull them up, put my lid on, and move my stencil and stamp tool off to the side. I'm not going to be using it for stenciling today at all, just as a stamp positioner. Now, before I start playing with these, I'm going to bring over my alcohol ink markers, and I don't know, let's just play with some blue. So 5 colors, and I would recommend that you swatch them out maybe, just so you can see what color it is. And again, these are alcohol based. You cannot use them with water. This is like using a permanent marker that gives a smooth coverage every time. Gives a beautiful smooth coverage every time. And maybe you just swatch that out and put it inside the box if you're going to keep them inside the box, or write the numbers because they all have a number to them. This is P555. They all have a number to it, and that way you know what colors you have. Now, alcohol ink markers are meant to blend into each other. That's the idea of them, is that they are meant to blend into each other. And most often you're going to use what's called a wet on wet technique, where you are using perhaps 2 markers, maybe even 3 markers, but a wet on wet technique. So if I was drawing here, and I start with my lightest color, and then I maybe came back with slightly darker color and came in, I would always want to make sure that this first color, wherever I'm going to add that next color, is wet, that my paper is wet. Then I'm going to bring in my next color right on top. And then I can take my first color, and that's where you start to make your blends. And it's a wet on wet, and it's going back and forth until you've made your blend. And that's all I'm trying to do, is blend my inks into each other. Now, the blender pen is not really a blender pen. So let's take and, gosh, do I have a ballpoint pen? We'll see if this works. Let's just draw maybe a flower. There's my flower. I don't know if this ink is going to smear or not. We're fine because I'm playing with a ballpoint pen. I know I can't do it with my black because the black is the same and it will mix. So I don't want to do that. But if I take a blender pen, all a blender pen is, you would think that if you did if you did this color, and then you did this color, and then you grabbed your blender pen, you instinctually would think, let me just move this maybe up a little bit. No, down a little bit. You instinctually would think, okay, all I have to do is take my blender pen and go like this, and it would blend the inks. That is not what an alcohol-based blender pen does. See, it's not blending my ink at all. I could go over this all day long and it would not blend my ink. What this really is a color lifter pen. So if I have my ink, and I use my blender pen, basically it's an alcohol ink marker without any color to it. It's going to lighten my color. You see how that lightened up? It pulls the color away. It takes the color off. So a blender pen is really a misnomer for it because it doesn't necessarily blend. It certainly doesn't blend two colors together. It really picks up and lightens the ink. So when you get your blender pen, I don't want you to grab two colors and go, hey, I want to make this really beautiful blend with these two colors. Now that I've got them down, let's take that blender pen, because I have two of them. Stacey said I was getting two. And let's blend them together. That just isn't going to happen. I most often use my blender pen as my eraser. It's my do-over pen, my oopsie pen, my oops pen. Or I will use it if I want a bleed of color. And if I want a bleed of color, that's a totally different look where you saturate your paper with your blender pen and then add a little bit of color and it bleeds out and fades out. You see that a lot with people who do a lot of alcohol ink coloring where they have that beautiful fade of maybe blue around their image. They'll do that with a blender pen. They'll come around and they'll add oodles and oodles of blender pen ink and then a little bit of blue, and that blue will seep in and fade into their blender pen. So for today, it's really about wet on wet on wet. That's really what we're talking about, is wet on wet on wet. So if I've got my little flower here, and again, not 100% sure because I used a ballpoint pen what we're going to get, but if I had my flower here and I just went in and colored my whole flower, there's my first petal. And it's nice and wet. And then I grabbed my next marker and maybe down here towards the bottom, I add a little color there. And then I come back with my first marker, and at that demarcation line, at that line where they separate, where one color starts and the other color stops, that's where I add my original color, my original ink. And if I need to go back, I go back. If I want to add a little bit more, it's all about keeping that ink wet. That ink wet allows the inks to seep into each other. Literally just on the demarcation line. That's all I'm doing. I'm not coming back and going over the top of this. Just on the demarcation line. Just so that that demarcation line fades out. That's all I'm looking for that to do. That demarcation line to just kind of fade out. And then I could come back with even a darker color. Around the bottom, maybe even darker than that. Darker blue around the bottom. And again, with the color I had in the middle, and just at that demarcation line, just tap it out. So all I'm trying to do is add a little bit of wet on wet on wet, so that the colors have an opportunity to almost bleed into each other, giving you your look. It is not hard. It's not hard at all. Alcohol markers you can use just on their own to just color. You could just color them in. Take a little bit of my first color, and just where that darker color ends is where I come back in with my lighter color. Just where it ends. I'm not trying to go over the whole thing again. If I wanted a little bit more. And then I'm not going to start at the top. I'm going to just start where that darker color ends into my first. And then if I want a little darker on the top, and then instead of taking my first color, I would take my second, the color that butts up to it, and just start to kind of move it out. It really can be very, very, very easy and very cathartic. I mean, you're just playing with color and letting that color bleed into each other. And come back here. And bleed that in a little bit more. So I don't want you to think it's difficult, because it really is not. And again, you could just come in and color your flower a solid color. But when you're using alcohol inks, your markers, it really is about wet on wet on wet. So I did really dark with really light. And that's going to be harder for me to blend out because there's no mid-tone. So I did really dark next to really light. And it'll be harder for me to get that to bleed out. But if I come back in and maybe add that middle color just a little bit, then I'm going to have an easier time blending all of that out. And you just let the ink do the work. Now, you may look at it and go, oh, I don't know about that. You have to give the ink the opportunity to move. If you look at it too fast and go, oh, I don't know about that. I'm not crazy about that. I'm going to stop and start again. You've got to give that ink time to move. If you don't give it time, if you look at it and you say, yeah, no, I don't like that at all, you're not giving the ink proper justice. It needs time to move into each other, to marry, to get to know its friends. And then all of a sudden, it starts to look amazing. So we stamped some butterflies. Let's go back now a little bit. Oh, no, that's not back. We stamped some butterflies. And now I can go in there, and I've got my 3 markers, and I can color. And because I used my waterproof ink, it's not gonna smear. Super important. So I've started coloring my butterfly, and I could just continue and use them as regular markers, but I'm going to get this wet again, and I'm going to add a little bit of my medium color. And then I'm going to bring back my light color, and just at that demarcation, just where the dark stops and the light starts, I'm just going to blend them into each other. So I've got one started. And now with my light color, I'm going to get this one re-wet, make sure it's good and wet. And then a little bit of my color. It's all about wet on wet. That's all I'm trying to do, is keep that ink wet enough that the ink moves into the next color. Maybe I want a little bit more right there. And then I just take an eye just where that line is. Gosh, and there's almost, ooh, it's so small. And so I've started my blends. Two colors so far. Now I could pull it down a little bit further. Go in and get it a little bit wet, a little bit wet, a little bit wet, and I'm just going to take that color down just a little bit further. So I got them all wet at the same time, so I can do them all at the same time. And again, just where that ink, where one color stops and the other one starts, that's all I'm doing. So I took the blue down just a little bit further, so then I could maybe tap just a little dark blue at the top. And now instead of taking the really light blue, I'll take the color that it marries up to and start to just pull it out. And then my light, and then a little bit of blue, and then my medium, and then a little bit of light. Now I'm not using necessarily 3 colors that correspond together or are part of the same color family. They're all blue, but that's about it. They're all blue. I went in there with the wrong color on that one. Oh, I keep going in with the wrong color, Stacey. Now this one. And all I'm trying to do is make a blend. That's it, just a blend. And I'm going to let that ink do its thing and blend into each other and smooth itself on out. It really isn't, it isn't hard. You don't have to be afraid. So I started up here. And then I came in with this one. And then I come back with this one. And just on that demarcation line, that's all I'm doing. And then I get this one wet again. And a little bit of this. And a little bit of this just to get rid of that demarcation line. And then wet my next one. And then a little bit of this. And then a little bit of this just to get rid of that demarcation line. And then the very bottom. And then I can come back in on the top. And this time I use the color that it marries up to, just to kind of smooth it on out. And then this color to smooth it on out. And I give it time to do its job. Nope, grabbed the wrong one. The one it marries up to. And then the light one. It's not going to hurt if I use the light one by accident. It's not going to harm it. And then another blue. And my medium color. And then a little bit of light. And then I need to step aside. I need to give it a minute so that it smooths the blend out. You can, alcohol ink markers, everybody, they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know. You just have to work with it. And the key is wet on wet. If I were to go in and let's grab maybe some different colors. Let's change. So I've got my blues here. Let's grab my oranges. So if I was to go in and add some color, again, not water soluble, alcohol based, so it dries really quickly. And it goes through your paper. So if I were to sit here and just let those dry, okay, give it a second to dry. And even if I take the next darkest color, let's see, is this the next dark? Yep, the next darkest color. If this is dry and not wet on wet, and I go in to add my next color, it can be harder to smooth it out because right now the ink has nothing to bleed into. So I need to go back in and I really need to saturate it. almost losing that extra color. Yeah, see, I lost that last color because there was nothing for it to bleed into. Yeah, see, I didn't get them wet ahead of time. And it's a little bit harder for it to blend out. It's always better to come in get it nice and colored. And then add your next color. And even though these two are so far apart, one's really so much lighter than the other, because I've got it wet on wet, that is slowly going to bleed into. Where this one kind of left that line, this is slowly dissolving into. And that's what I'm looking for. So I just keep going back and forth. So now I add my color again. And a little bit of my darker. And then at that demarcation line, just let it bleed on out. That's all I'm looking for it to do, is just kind of bleed and dissolve away. Bleed and dissolve. They don't have to be scary. Really, they don't. They can certainly be so easy and so effective, whether you're using them just as a marker. Maybe that's all you want to do is color with them. They're Tombow quality, beautiful quality. Maybe you just want to color with them, or maybe you do want to do a little bit of blending and moving, and it's so lovely. Oh, let's make sure I get the right lid on the right one. Yes, okay. I'm notorious for that. So that's if we use an ink, right? An ink. But what if we want to use an embossing? Well, for that, we can either use an embossing powder that is like a gold or a silver, but with alcohol ink on an embossing powder that has an actual color to it. Sometimes the alcohol, when you're using the marker next to the embossing powder, it will start to lift the embossing powder, after you've set it, after you've heat set it, because that alcohol is eating into it and it can lift it up. So another way of doing that, super simple, super easy, is using pigment-based ink and a clear embossing powder. The clear embossing powder, even if it lifts just a little bit, you're never going to notice it. So let's grab this one. Now, a pigment-based ink, it's not a dye-based ink. and it takes much longer to dry. So this is a pigment-based ink. A pigment-based ink sits on the top of paper, where a dye-based ink absorbs in, or an alcohol-based ink absorbs in. This, it's almost creamy. Okay, look at that. It takes it a while to dry. So remember, and an alcohol ink or an alcohol marker, it's dry. So when you're thinking about different types of inks, to know the dry time is really important, because you want to pick the right ink for the right project. So I always recommend that if you know your ABCs, you will know your inks and what inks dry in what amount of time. So, and I know I've gone over this 100 times, but for the person who doesn't know, and you walk into your favorite crafting store and they have 20 different brands of ink, and you're like, but which one do I need? It depends upon the job you're doing. What project are you doing? So if you know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down to Z, you can look at any ink and figure out the dry time. A, first letter in the alphabet, alcohol. Alcohol inks dry like that, because that alcohol lays down and then evaporates. It just evaporates. Alcohol inks seep into paper, so you're gonna see it. Oh, and this one not so much. I didn't get it wet enough. You will see it come through the back side, but A is the first letter in the alphabet. Alcohol inks dry like that. Then there were things called chalk inks, and we used to use cat's eye chalk inks to edge all the way around our paper. And chalk starts with C. That's not A, so it doesn't dry as fast as alcohol, but C isn't so far from A, so C dries pretty darn quickly. Now D stands for dye-based inks, and dye-based inks are really the most prevalent inks that we use. When you're stamping and you want to stamp an image, most people are using a type of a dye-based ink. Now some dye-based inks are water reactive, some are not water reactive. That all depends upon whether you want to splash water on it, but the majority are little droplets. The majority of us own a dye-based ink, and that's typically what we stamp with, a dye-based ink. Now, D and C are right next to each other, so a dye-based ink dries just about as fast as a chalk-based ink, and dye-based and chalk-based are really close to A for alcohol. Alcohol dries the fastest. So now you've got your A, alcohol, B, C, D. Those three inks are the inks that are going to dry quickly, uber fast. You're not going to have time to throw embossing powder on them, although my dye-based inks you can, but let's not talk about that right now. The majority of dye-based inks. So, the exception of mine. So you have A for alcohol, C for chalk, D for dye-based. Then pigment-based ink is all the way down the alphabet. You got to go after D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P before you get to pigment-based inks. That means it's going to take a long time to dry. That purple is still a little wet. I can still smudge it. So why would you want a pigment-based ink? Well, what job are you doing? What make are you making? Do you want to throw embossing powder over the top of it? Well, pigment-based ink is the best ink to do that. It just depends upon what it is you're trying to accomplish. Now you're going to say, okay, but what about a permanent ink? Well, permanent inks are alcohol based. So StazOn really is an alcohol based ink, which means it dries pretty fast and stays on. Now, depending on what you're putting it on, I'm talking about on paper. If you take an alcohol-based ink and you put it on a non-porous surface, it will take a few seconds for that alcohol to evaporate out and for the ink to dry. But on paper, it dries pretty darn fast. So if you're working primarily with paper, well, you're going to need, most people use a dye-based ink. Alcohol-based inks, let's say, like an alcohol, like in the job or in the little jars, that type of an alcohol-based ink, maybe Pinata inks or Tim Holtz Ranger alcohol inks, those are typically put on a non-porous surface like glass or plastic. These can also be put on a non-porous surface like glass or plastic or vellum. It's the same type of ink, just used differently. Alcohol-based ink is alcohol-based ink is alcohol-based ink. It just matters what manufacturer are you using. Are you using the Jacquard Pinata alcohol inks? Are you using the Ranger? Are you using the Couture Creations? Are you using the Marabou alcohol inks? Are you using Copic markers? Are you using Couture Creations? Are you using Tombow alcohol ink markers? If you know your alphabet, alcohol inks dry fast on paper, but are primarily, people really do use them for non-porous things as well, because it's very much like a Bic or Sharpie marker. If you want to write on a piece of metal or a piece of plastic, can't necessarily do that with a dye-based ink. It's just going to make it's just going to kind of soup up and have little dotty spots. Can't do it. You need an alcohol-based marker. Chalk-based around the edges dries pretty fast. It's a little hard to find chalk-based inks these days, but then you have dye-based inks right next to chalk. A for alcohol, C for chalk, D for dye. At the top of the alphabet, P all the way down. So why do we want P? Why do we want pigment-based inks? Remember, the other P is permanent-based, and permanent-based inks are very much like, well, they're an alcohol-based ink, so it falls under the A category. Why do we want an ink that stays wet and moves like that? Well, do you like oxide inks? Because oxide inks are a blendable ink like this. It's a pigment-based type ink that gives you those beautiful blends. It stays wet long enough to really get those beautiful blends. Or do you want to use embossing powder with it? The ink stays wet long enough for us to throw down embossing powder. Let's bring over my stamp platform again, and let's put my paper on. You can see I stamped right there on my sticky grid, but that's okay. Let's put, I just got ink on that from my finger. Let's put down my stamp. Close it up. Lift up, and now I can add my ink to it. Pigment-based ink is not going to stain your stamp. Down we go. Pull up. Now if I want, that came out beautiful, but if I wanted to do it again, if I missed a spot or I wanted to make it darker, ink, ink, ink. Down we go. And I've got that beautiful royal purple. It's gorgeous. Let's do 2 of them because I can. Pick it up. Ink, ink, ink. And down we go. And if I want it a little darker, ink, ink, ink. And down we go. Looks great. Put my lid on. Pull my stamp. Baby wipe it, and you can see there's lots of ink. Baby wipe. Now, I'm not going to get it all the way clean, but it's good enough for me. I've got my stamps right there. And because it's pigment-based ink, the ink stays wet long enough for me to do that. Grab my clear embossing powder. This is Jacquard's clear embossing powder. So they developed it to go with their ink pads, with their color pad pigment-based ink. That powder is going to cling wherever my ink is. So now it's kind of dull because I've got this white powder over the top of it. And just quickly, put my lid on my powder because, put my powder away because I know I will spill it. Zoop. You use very little embossing powder, but just quickly. Oh, wrong side down. There we go. There we go. So my platform has a side that has a grid and the lid that's clear and smooth. I always want that smooth side against my stamp. I was trying to pick it up with the grid side, and that grid side just really won't pick the stamp up. It just won't. So if I flip it around, I'm good to go. Let's change our ink. And one. See, look at no purple. Do it one more time. This is tight. I wonder how it got harbors. So this must be harbor. These two lids got switched. Okay, so one. And two. I got my fingers in there, but we'll be fine. And then a baby wipe. Wipe my lid. And pull up my paper. So now I have two. I have this one that already has the embossing powder on it. And then I have this one that I've just stamped without any embossing powder on it. if I don't do something with the embossing powder, it will just wipe off. The ink is not a glue. So I need to take something and heat that embossing powder so that it melts and it goes from a powder to a solid. I've got my Sizzix heat tool, well-loved heat tool, and if you're new to a heat tool, you might start with the lower setting until you got a little more familiar with it. This gives off enough heat to take that embossing powder, which basically is a plastic. It's almost like it's a finely ground plastic. It has enough heat to melt that into a solid. So if I take and I put my heat tool right over the top, I can watch it turn. Okay, can you see the difference in the color? This has had heat, this hasn't. So this has now got this shiny, glazy top to it. And how long does it take to dry? Once your paper's cool. Now I need to finish this side because it's dull. It's still embossing powder. It hasn't turned into a solid yet. Now look at the difference between the two of them. This has got clear embossing powder over the top, gives a little bit of a glaze look to it. I'm trying to get a reflection for you, while this still is powder. Now if I don't do anything to this at all, if I just leave it, it will wipe right off. And it will make a mess of whatever you've been working on. You have to heat set. You have to. Important. Otherwise, the powder just wipes off. It has to change into a solid. And you can watch it change. The color darkens. It becomes more rich. It gets a glaze to it. Heat set, not heat set. And once your paper is cool, once it's cool to the touch, your embossing powder is dry. It just needs to cool down because it's plastic. Now you're saying, what's the benefit of having pigment-based ink pads? I already have dye-based ink pads, Stacey. Why would I need pigment-based ink pads? Well, to begin with, it allows you to have an ink pad that with just clear embossing powder, you can use any of these colors as your embossed image, as opposed to having an embossing color in all of these. The benefit to that is that you can use the stamp pad for many different things. But if you have a peony embossing powder, really the only thing a peony embossing powder can do is be an embossing powder. A peony stamp pad can be a stamp pad. You can take your blending tool, a dauber, not a brush, and you can blend these colors into beautiful, beautiful blends on your paper. You can use it with clear embossing powder. It gives you more options. Or you could have the different colors in embossing powder, and that's okay too. I just want to show you the difference. Also, your metallic inks. all of your metallic inks, your bronzes, your golds, your silvers, those are also going to be pigment based because it needs to sit on top of the paper as opposed to absorb in to get that beautiful metallic look. So there is reason for pigment based inks. Like I said, if you love Tim Holtz oxide inks, well, you're gonna love these as too, and you can use these in conjunction with those as well. So we've done some embossing. And then now, I mean, it's totally dry. Then I'm able to go in and just start to play. So now I can add my marker, keep it nice and wet, add a little bit of my darker, move those two into each other. Add a little bit of my darker. Move those two into each other. And then let it all blend into each other. It really is super easy. Wet on wet, on wet. Wet, on wet, on wet. And before you know it, you're doing it. You're doing it. You got it. Wet. On wet. On wet. And before you know it, you're doing it. So whether you want to, I'm going to put this butterfly because see how the ink is sitting right on top of it? I'm just going to kind of wipe it so I don't put my fingers in it. Well, I might have stained this stamp. I might have left it on there long enough that it stained it, but that's okay. All right, so I've got some of the ink off. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna put my fingers in that and that's not gonna be good. So whether you want to stamp with a stamp pad, a waterproof stamp pad, India ink, Memento black, so that you can go in and just stamp and color, or you want to use embossing powder and go in there and stamp and color, you have options. You have options. But what if we wanted to play on vellum? This vellum is super heavy and there is no right side and no wrong side. It is A4 in size, which means it gives you 4 A6 size card bases or card fronts, which would be the same as your Sizzix card bases and envelopes. So this is the same size as Sizzix paper, and thick, really, really thick. But basic ink won't dry on vellum. Vellum, again, it's a plastic substrate, so it's kind of a hybrid, kind of papery, plasticky, but you can't take a dye-based ink and put it on vellum and have it dry. It just won't. It won't. You can take an alcohol-based ink and put it on vellum and it will dry. StazOn, you can certainly stamp with StazOn. Pull up your StazOn. It's going to be tacky for a bit because it has to dry on something that's non-porous. The paper, it was kind of seeping into a little bit as the same time it was drying on top, but vellum or a plastic or a glass or a metal, it's going to take it a little bit more time because it has to wait for that alcohol to evaporate before it's dry. So I could take my ABT markers and color on here, absolutely. But if I took my StazOn stamp and I stamped with StazOn, and then I came in with my color, StazOn alcohol is alcohol based, my ABT markers are alcohol based. Alcohol and alcohol does not go together. It will smear absolutely everywhere. The easiest thing to do is to stamp on the top and put a heat embossing on it. Just the easiest thing to do. That way your vellum is ready to go. So let's take, I've been playing with this stamp. Let's take this one because this is the one I've been playing with. Also Woodware. And let's bring over my stencil and stamp tool, grid facing me. Let's put my vellum down. I feel embossing powder. Put my stamp down. Close it up. Pull up my stamp. And then with black pigment-based ink, because I'm going to throw embossing powder over the top of it, let's ink up my stamp. Now if I used a black StazOn, it would stay on the vellum, but you wouldn't be able to use your alcohol-based markers with it. You would just be stamping on vellum, and then that would be it, like a sentiment. But if you want to color, that looks pretty good. I think I'll do one more. Make sure I got a nice coverage. That looks great. Okay. So here's my stamped image. Now this pigment, it's not going to dry. It just isn't. It's going to stay wet and it's going to smear. That's not what we're looking for. And you could come back 3 hours from now and it's going to stay wet and it's going to smear. I need, oh, let's pull this off and get this clean. I need to be able to make that pigment ink, which gave me a beautiful impression. I need to be able to make it so that I can alcohol ink over the top of it. All right, there we go. There we go. I'm gonna give this a good cleaning. So this is still sitting here. I haven't added my embossing powder yet. There's no rush. It's not gonna dry on the vellum, so I'm gonna clean my stamp real quick. Because that looks good. There we go. Yay. Now I can put some embossing powder over the top of it. So let's grab my Jacquard. Embossing powder over the top. Kind of let it walk on down and let gravity do the work. Tap off all the extra. And I'm ready to heat set. I think I'm going to set that there for a minute. And I'm going to stamp another one. And this time I'm going to use a colored ink as opposed to black. It feels like there's two of them there, but there isn't. Pick it up. And what color do we want to use? Let's use peony. Should we use peony? Let's see if we like it. Good press. Up. Oh, definitely needs another coat. No, we're getting there. I think I want more on this one here. Maybe if I'm not getting enough pressure. Oh, better. I think I'm just not getting enough pressure on that center. I think that's pretty good. So now I've got it in the peony. Let's pull this off. And let's add some embossing powder to it. Right over the top. And I'm just going to kind of let it walk itself right on down. Tap off the extra. And it's ready to be embossed. So now I have two that are ready to be embossed. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do it in a metallic color. So baby wipe. Get my stamp clean. Well, as clean as I can. I'm going to say that's pretty good. Good enough for me. Yeah, that works for me. I've got one more piece of vellum right here. And this time, let's use some metallic. So I've got bronze, and maybe I'll grab silver. So now I'm using a metallic ink, pigment based. Oh, that was pretty good on the first go round, but let's do it one more time. Oh, that looks good, good, good. Wipe down my stamp because I'm going to add the silver. There we go. Little towel. I haven't moved my paper and I've got room right here. So I'm just going to wash, rinse, and repeat. Only this time I'm going to change the ink color. And we're going to have oodles to play with. And now I'm inking up in a pigment-based silver. And again, this is all by Jacquard. And Jacquard is known for their fine art quality products. So their inks tend to be superb. Oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So now I've got one in black, I've got one in pink, I've got one in bronze, and I've got one in silver. All on vellum. All right, I'm going to put that one over there for now. I'm going to take these out. I'm not going to put my embossing powder on it yet. I'm going to heat set my other two. They've been sitting, right? It's been sitting there. Remember, we started with black. How long ago did we do this one? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? And look at the difference. Heat set the bottom, not heat set the top. Look at the difference. Kind of dull. Oh, but look at that black shine. Look at that shine and sheen. Beautiful. And now I can look at it and I can say, oh my gosh, that looks beautiful, but I'm not getting that beautiful sheen right there. That's because I haven't added enough heat to turn the powder into a solid. That tells me I need to go back. Bam! Beautiful. Right? So there's one. Then I did this one. Look at that pink. Wow. Okay, not heat set, heat set. Not heat set, heat set. That is such a dramatic difference. And you see it. You see it as you're heating. Okay, bam. Beautiful. Beautiful. So now I've got the black and I've got the pink, but we've done these also, and these have been sitting there now. I want you to see that you have time. You don't have to rush. It's going to be okay. So now I've got two of them. I think I need a bigger funnel. I think I'm gonna need a bigger funnel. Maybe one day I'll buy one. My little piece of paper. I just used paper to make my own little funnel to put my embossing powder back in. So let's take it, and I'm just gonna put it right over the top. And I still have so much because it uses so little right over the top. And then I'm going to let it walk on down and let gravity do the work for me. And if I missed any place, just come back and grab it. So now I have got both of them ready to heat set. All my embossing powder goes right back into my jar. And yes, embossing powder can get old. It usually has to do with humidity, heat, cold. So let's see. I want to make sure I do the whole thing. Oh, it's sparkling. It's like it's twinkling at me. It's like it's twinkling. Well, let's put a piece of white behind it. It's like it's twinkling at me. So now I have silver, bronze, only I didn't do it with bronze or silver embossing powder. I did it with ink. I have black and I have pink. What to do with them next? Well, you can't add water to vellum. That you can't do. So no watercoloring. Vellum, let's see if I can get... Vellum does not like water. You get vellum wet, and vellum is going to start to curl on you. Even a little wet. And vellum, did you ever have one of those fishes on your hand? The fortune teller fishes, and if it curled, it meant when... I think they came in Jack in the Box. Not Jack in the Box, Cracker Jacks. Do they even make Cracker Jacks anymore? Well, that's what happens when you get vellum wet. Even a little wet, not a lot wet. I got that a lot wet. Even a little wet. And vellum does not like any kind of a liquid. Does not make its heart happy. It will just start to curl, and there's no getting it back. All I did was wipe this down with my baby wipe, and look at it go. So you can't use any kind of water-based products. What you can use is your alcohol ink markers. Yeah, that's just gonna keep curling and curling and curling. So what you can use is alcohol-based markers. I'm gonna wipe my table down because I don't want any wetness. Yep, we're dry. So now I've got my beautiful image. And I can paint on the front, but I can also flip it over and paint on the back side. You're like, paint? Yeah, we're almost gonna, like we're painting. What colors do I like? Let's grab some greens. And my blues. Let's just have them all out, shall we? All 40 colors. My pinks. So what if I went in and I just started to color? What you get on the opposite side is gorgeous. Now that's just one color. What if I chose to put some other colors in there? Now I can go in with my yellow, and once I'm done, all I have to do is rub my yellow until the color comes true again. It doesn't harm it at all to go on top of another color. And I'm just scribbling, scribble, scribble, scribble. Go back with my first color, just like we did in the beginning. And then flip it over. And look at what I'm doing. So this takes no skill level. This is just straight coloring. That's all I'm doing, is just coloring in. And because it's alcohol, it's drying on the vellum and it's not curling the vellum. Look at the difference between just the pink versus the pink and the yellow. What do you like better? You have options. You have 40 markers to choose from. Look at how easy is this. And you look like an absolute rock star. On vellum. Look at how simple is that. It's just so lovely. I could come back in with even a darker color if I wanted. So what if I came in with a little bit darker of an orange? Is this a little bit darker enough? No, let's go back a little bit darker. Just take that middle color, swipe at that demarcation line right on out. We've already done this before. We did it on paper. Now we're doing it on vellum. And now I've added a little darker to the tips. It's up to you what you want it to be. It's so easy. It's so pretty. Now let's say I'm in here and I'm coloring and I'm coloring and I'm coloring and I go out of the lines. Oh no, I went out of the lines. What do we do? Remember that oops pin you're going to get 2 of? Remember that oops pin? You're getting 2 of the blender pins. Magic eraser. Yes, please. Magic eraser. So what if I went in and I went in and I accidentally went out? And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've just ruined it. Look at, I went outside my line. Magic eraser. You literally just start pulling it up and then wiping your nib off and then pulling it up and then wiping your nib off. And every time you wipe your nib off, that pink disappears. You go back in and pick up a little bit more. And the next thing you know, magic eraser. What happens if I don't like what I've done? Okay, so how many times in crafting do you get an opportunity for a do-over? do-over. Vellum is your friend. It is. You love it. It is easy to work with. It gives you options. It lets you play. You don't have to be a colorist. You don't even have to worry about making blends because it's on the back side. So you don't care if they don't blend perfectly together. All you do is flip it over, and are you happy with how that looks? And if you are, be done. Flip it over. Now this one has a little darker on the tips. This one does not. Do we want a little darker on the tips? I don't know. We decide. You have options. You choose. Could even go back in and go a little bit darker if I wanted. It's so lovely. And it's so easy. And you have 40 markers to play with. And 2 oops pins to change your mind with. Right, and then you can go in with the green. I always start with the lightest color and then build my color on top. And we're talking about $175 worth of alcohol ink markers and a cute little stamp for $29.99. This is your opportunity to play with alcohol ink markers without costing a fortune. Or to add to your collection. Will these work with Copics? Yes, of course they will. That's almost the same color. I want darker. Ooh, this might be too dark, but you never know. Well, you know what? We have an oops pin. Oh, that's beautiful. That's the perfect color. That's a beautiful color. Holy smokes, artichokes. Okay, that is fast and that is easy. And anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. I just went in with my lightest yellow. And if you want to see what you got, you just flip it over. And see what I've got? You just flip it over. I could be happy with just that. All I have to do is stay within the lines, and if I don't, oops, pin, please. Oops, pin. Now let's take, this one might be too dark. I may be going overboard here. I'm going to turn it over and see what I got. Maybe I want it a little darker. It almost has this beautiful stained glass. And it doesn't have to be pretty on the back side. That's the cool thing. The back side nobody's going to see. So I'm just scribbling. I'm a good scribbler. And then just wicking it out. I'm a good scribbler. So pretty. And then I get all the dark color off this once I'm done. Even if the nib has a little bit on it, it's okay. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Just get some in there because I'm going to take my lighter yellow and come back and kind of move it down a little bit. And then just kind of pull it on out. Wick it on out. Not too much rhyme, too much reason, just kind of go for it. Because you turn it over and you see what you got, and you can go back and add where you need to add or take away where you need to take away. And I'm adding. So easy. If I want to make it a little lighter, I can take my oops pin and I can come in and I can pick up some of my color. I'm just erasing it, so now it's even lighter and down by the... I mean, you can't go wrong. The options are limitless. And just get rid of some of this color if I want. And oops it away. So my problem is that I would want to keep coloring and coloring and coloring and coloring. And coloring and coloring. So now I've added a darker orange in there too. And they're so pretty. So much opportunity, right? About this one. Just need a darker blue. Well, I guess for a base color. This one's a little bit darker. Oh yeah, that's a little darker. And scribble, scribble, scribble. I'm just trying to stay inside the lines, and if I don't, I go grab my oops pin. So on the other side is my silver. But I didn't do it with embossing powder. I did it with a silver pigment ink and clear embossing powder over the top. And then maybe too dark. Easy peasy. Then I turn it over and I look and I say, oh, I like where this is going. I like where this is going. A little darker purple at the top. And let's take that medium purple and kind of wick that darker purple down just a little bit. And the back kind of looks like a hot mess. We don't care about the black. We care about when we turn it over, what do we see? Oh, Dreamboat. Look at how good that's looking. And I'm using purples and I'm using blues. And I'm scribbling. Okay, so here's the back side. Just kind of scribbled in there. And when you flip it, stunning. Let's finish. So I'm just gonna do light purple here, and here, and there. Again, not being overly careful. And then let's do some dark purple. And we can take our light blue, kind of mix it, the bottom colors together. And flip it over and oh. Okay, and I think I'm going to do a little bit of light blue, or maybe I'll do a little bit of yellow. We're getting there. How pretty. Now for the leaves, and then bam, done. So I did the leaves with this one first time. Started with the light color. And just color, color, color. Don't worry if it's not perfect. It's the back side. Oh, and I'm just adding some green there. Don't ask me why. I have absolutely no idea why I'm doing that, but I did it. I don't even know if you'll see it. Oh, but this green is just the most perfect leaf green ever. Like I said, the back looks meh, because you can see all the brush strokes and all the lines and everything, but then you flip it and beautiful. Now, can you color on top of the vellum? Yes, yes you can. It will give you a more intense color. And you'll have to do your blends. You'll have to make your blends a little bit so that you don't see as much of the brush strokes. But can you? You sure can, right over the top of that clear embossing powder. No problem. And then so if you want the more diffused look and more scribble, 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 it's the back side. You want the more vibrant look, it's the front side. And you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to wick that color out so that you don't see that demarcation line anymore. So a little bit bolder in the color on the front side, more diffused on the back. What do you like better? You have options. Like, is she really adding yellow? I sure am. Look at it once you add that yellow. Wow, it pops. Diffused, pop. Diffused, pop. You decide. The vellum makes it. The vellum makes everybody who thinks they can't color and just an instant artist, an instant colorist. And can you have an oops on the front side? You can have an oops on the front side every bit as much as you have an oops on the back. Go in there and clean up your mistake. and then it's gone. Now I will say, working on the front side, you absolutely want to make sure that all your embossing powder has been heat set. You don't want to put your marker into a bunch of embossing powder that wasn't turned into a solid. That you don't want to do. The back side, you don't have to worry about that if for some reason you missed a spot. But on the front side, you see, look at, I didn't get all my spots. I missed a spot. I've got powder on my marker. It'll come off. It's not a problem, but you just as soon make sure that your embossing powder, you've gotten all of it nice and hot so that it turns into that solid from that powder. So this is the fun part for me. I would just as soon color on vellum all day long than paper with alcohol ink markers because, well, it's easy. I can just do it. I don't have to think too hard. I can mix my colors any way I want. And I can just go for it. So here I am so far, but I'm going to add that yellow. That yellow just absolutely makes it. Oh, love it with the yellow. Got blue on there because I picked up some of my blue, and even if my nib stays blue, as long as my marker runs yellow again, I'm good to go. All right. So we played. And we played. And we played. And we started way back here. And way back here. Where it really was about whether we stamped with a waterproof stamp ink so that we could blend our colors. I mean, we started actually way back here where we learned that a blender isn't really a blender, it's a color lifter, where it's about wet on wet on wet, which keeps that ink moving into each other. That we can definitely use embossing powder. Do I have my other one over here? Definitely use embossing powder. Clear embossing powder with your favorite ink. Oh, I know what I did with it. It was making a mess. That if you don't set your embossing powder, it makes a mess. And that you need to use a pigment-based ink to use clear embossing powder over the top. It stays wet long. But at the same time, if you use a pigment-based ink, you can smear it and smudge it, and it's not gonna dry for a long time because P for pigment is all the way down the alphabet. But my goodness, you can just go in there, and it doesn't have to take long, and it doesn't have to be too much. You literally just go in and start to color. Now the nice thing about the vellum is you have your oops pin. You just start to color wet on wet on wet. You just want to keep that paper wet so the ink has the opportunity to flow into each other. And just that fast. I've done the wings on that side. I mean, it can be that fast. It doesn't have to be hours and hours of coloring. Just go for it. And then whether we do it on the back side of paper, we do it on the front side, we do it with metallic. I leave those options to you. So I'm a go, go, go kind of girl. Somebody else might take 20 minutes to color these leaves in. I want to get it done and then move on to my next one because I want to try a different color combination. And then that light color again. And just kind of blend them in. Just kind of wick it on out. Colored on the top, colored on the back side. You choose. Options aplenty. All right, you guys. The Tombow markers are amazing. They really, really are. And for this price, it is a way to really either expand your collection of alcohol ink markers because they're all going to play well together. You're going to get all the colors. I was able to get all 8 packs. Wahoo kachoo for me. Wahoo kachoo for you. All 8 packs. Hey, there's a pack under there. Make room for the pink. So all 8 packs. The Woodware stamp. Oh, I still have one more pack. Make room for the gray. Is it in there? Yeah, okay. So all 8 packs, 2 blenders and 2 blacks, $29.99 for all of it, not $175. And I know people ask, how does she do it? She does it because she passes the savings on to the customer. That's how she does it. She does it because it's the right thing to do. And then I have got all the color pad. And I want to say there's maybe 20 different colors of just the colors. And then there's the metallics. And we've got all of that. And we've got all the re-inkers. So all of the colors of the color pad pigment-based inks. This is just a small assortment of it. There are oodles and oodles of colors. And once you have the clear embossing powder, all of them become embossable. Easy peasy mac and cheesy. We do have the Jacquard clear embossing powder for you. If you have clear embossing powder, by all means, use it. It will work. We also have for you the waterproof black color pad. This is not pigment. It's a dye-based ink. It's a dye-based ink, but it's waterproof, so it doesn't smudge. That's important to know. It's different than the pigment-based. This is pigment. This is what we did here. We stamped in the black pigment. We added clear embossing powder. We heat set. That is this. This was this waterproof black, pigment-based black. They're both black, I get it, but they do entirely different things. Totally different things. This one has a clear lid. This one has a solid lid. And then I have a huge assortment of Woodware stamps. We've got the 3 butterflies that go with the free one, all bundled together, sold as a set. They're 50% off. And then we have a huge assortment of Woodware stamps at 50% off. Some we have 1, some we have 2, some we have 12. It just depends upon what it is, but they're on sale for 50% off. Not all the Woodware is on sale for 50% off. Just the Woodware that's in the Saturday with Stacey YouTube class. That's it. But there's a lot. All right, so some samples to show you. Like I said, we don't have a ton, but we have some. So pretty. Woodware stamp, colored on the back. Woodware stamp with the vellum, colored on the back. Here, they just stamped on black paper with the pigment-based ink, the white frost, and then ran the vellum sentiment over the top. Woodware stamp. Look at how cute is that. And that is done on vellum. So they just did the ink and embossed it on the vellum and matted it. Look at how great that looks, that little jalopy. Look at how pretty is this. Patty, this is beautiful. Again, embossed, stamped with pigment-based ink, clear embossing powder, on vellum, and then colored. Same here. Oh, and she's got multiple colors in here. Of course you do, Katie. She's done it with multiple ink pads to give you multiple colors, and then clear embossing powder, and then the Tombow ABT Pro alcohol markers. Oh, look at this one. Gail, this is beautiful. Look at how Woodware stamp, embossed, flipped over, colored on the back. I think this one's colored on the back. And this one's also Gail. Oh, this one's definitely colored on the back. So maybe this one's colored on the front. I'm gonna say maybe this one's on the front and this one's on the back. Woodware stamp. Look at how pretty is this? Oh, and the next one's darling. I don't mean to be cheesy, but have a nice birthday. Look at him. Isn't he cute? I don't mean to be cheesy. Quack, quack, quack. Look at these. Again, stamped with pigment-based ink, clear embossing powder over the top, and then colored. Oh, and look at this little guy. I think, who did this one? Patty did this one. Who did this one? Patty did this one. Gail did this one. Darling. And then here, look at here. Katie did this one. Again, stamped, embossing powder. So stamped with this looks like a bronze, pigment-based ink, clear embossing powder over the top, heat set, and then she did this one from the back side to get that super soft diffused look. Wow. All right, you guys. So, super value today. Crazy good value. And then, oh, I forgot to show you. Oh, please. I forgot to show you. The vellum by Paper Favorites. We haven't had it in like a year, I want to say maybe a year. So I don't know when we're going to get it again. We came in and we're using it, and it is the heaviest vellum. You will not be disappointed in it. It is absolutely gorgeous vellum. And then it really all depends upon what it is. You want to do. You have options. So, this is today's Saturday with Stacey YouTube class. I hope you're still with me. I hope you learned something new. I hope I reminded you of something maybe you forgot. I hope I gave you the opportunity to add something to your crafty arsenal, your crafty stash that is affordable. Those pins are amazing for that price. And the Woodware at 50% off, and the vellum, I want to say the vellum's $5.99, and then on sale, it's $5.99, 5 sheets, but it is so thick. You will love it. I've got the color pad on sale. I'm just hoping you had a good time. And if all you did was stay for the entertainment and the samples, well, thank you. Thank you for being part of the SMS peeps. If you're live chatting, hey, thanks for being part of the live chat. We are an amazing crafting family out here, and we're from all over the world. There's people from Canada and France and Denmark and Italy, all over Germany, all over the world on the live chat. The United Kingdom. We are a crafting family, global. So come hang with me every Saturday. We do this every Saturday, and every Saturday it's different. So our Saturday with Stacey start at 8 a.m. sunny California time, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. in the United Kingdom. That's when we're live chatting. And then it's available for everybody. No live chat afterwards. And then I will see you again on Monday for our next Make It Monday Winter Warehouse Sale. So we're announcing the 4th week of the Winter Warehouse Sale. All the manufacturers that are being added to the sale, tons of dollar deals. Oh my gosh, tons of dollar deals. And then Tuesday, I think we're taking a day off because I'm having the backdrops put in over, so I have new backdrops coming in. So, and then back on Thursday for New For You Thursday. And Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays are at 6 p.m. sunny California time, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, where are you going to find all of this great product? Well, the ABT Pro markers for this price, I think it's just going to be us. Woodware, you might be able to find absolutely everywhere. The color pad inks, the pigment-based inks, again, they may be available at many places, but we've got them on sale. However, if your local independent retailer has them, go shop there first. Absolutely. Even if you have to spend a little bit more, go shop there first and keep their doors open. All right, you guys, it is me, Stacey, Scrapbooking Made Simple, scrapbookingmadesimple.com. I will see you before Christmas, so I'm not going to say Merry Christmas, not just yet. I will see you on Monday. All right, you guys, have a great day, and thanks for hanging. I really had a good time with you. Bye, everybody.